And apparently there's videos of people talking to Russian citizens and saying how they feel about the war. And you can find some people saying that this is just Putin's war. But from what everybody was saying yesterday, a ton of people who have tried to protest what's going on are just getting arrested. Okay, so there's a lot to cover. There is a lot to cover where the Russia-Ukraine stuff is concerned. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do it all in a single go. Expect there to be quite a few videos on this topic, not just because it is the talk of everywhere right now, but because there's a shit ton of angles that we have to talk about. The first thing that I want to talk about is the Tucker Carlson bit, but we'll have to do that. We'll have to do that for the next one. So let's do the fan art and let's talk. So first fan art we have here is from the Robotic Kitty. It is Pokemon trainer versions of both myself and Raz, and it is wonderful. It's actually the lock screen on my phone. The next one we have here is a Slime Suris from Hyperbole / Parthenia Southpaw, and it is also amazing. And the last one we have today is from Salem, and it is a Slime Suris sucker. And it's cute. As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future episode, you know where to drop it. I'm gonna get right into the topic here. So let's do a brief overview of the stuff that has happened so far. Russia has invaded Ukraine. Make no mistake about that. There's people who are going through and engaging in the propaganda mill and saying that, oh no, like Ukraine is an aggressor. I mean, hell, even Putin called Ukraine filled with Nazis as part of the justification for running in there and doing his shit. But a quick trigger warning for people who don't like, missiles hitting airports. Just remember, this is stuff that's happening to places where civilians are. Even if there is strategic importance to airports, knocking them out, like this is just shit that is happening everywhere in Ukraine as of right now. And people are just having to deal with that, which isn't... Said Putin tried creating a fake cause and no one believes it. Almost no one. No. There are people within Russia's borders that believe the stuff that Putin has been saying. And a lot of it sounds very, very awkwardly close to what Donald Trump, what people would say to justify the things that Donald Trump had said over several times. And it's not great. The entire situation is fucked. And like I said, there's a lot we have to cover where this is concerned. We have missile attacks that are happening. We also have tanks that are rolling up.
But nevertheless, with a very powerful military that now seem to be crossing the border, as we can see there on that video, into Ukraine. And as Matthew was pointing out, the fastest way for an invasion force to get to the Ukrainian capital of Kiev is exactly from Belarus. There's a pretty new road that actually the Ukrainians built to try and increase traffic, to try and increase trade with Belarus when the relations were still better. It really is a very, because of course.
So we've got military armaments that are being sent through the roads. If any of this seems scatterbrained, I'm going to be heavily relying on Cherry to help string some of this stuff together. But we've also got this is very close to what I experienced during Hurricane Ivan, where gas is concerned. Like, that line's backed up that far. Even farther than that was kind of the norm when Hurricane Ivan hit. This is what you see during crisis times. This is what you see during absolute times of fucking crisis. And then we've got more that needs to be covered as well. Russia, this is as of February 23rd, Russia has invaded Ukraine by air. At least 7 cities, including Kyiv and Odessa, have reported shelling and bombing. Putin is now claiming that Ukraine needs to be demilitarized and denazified, and that NATO supports Nazis, apparently. And then he did point out, he did say whoever tries to interfere with this, the Russian response will be, it will lead you to such consequences that you have never seen in your history. Which, to anybody who's seen how Putin acts, like this just sounds like calling for the nuclear option. It just sounds like calling for the nuclear option. Ukraine's defense minister reported troops on the ground in Odessa. Ukrainian Border Patrol has reported attacks on the northern border by both Russian and Belarusian troops. Russia and Belarusian troops have entered the Ukraine via tank transport. NATO Article 4 has been invoked in the Baltic states, triggering consultations between numerous NATO states because they feel the territorial integrity, political independence, or security of an ally is threatened. Jen puts in Update 5. Lots of updates here. Russia's taking control of a Ukrainian airbase just miles outside of Kyiv. The EU has imposed financial sanctions against Kremlin's inner circle, including cutting access to European banks, or European Union banks, frozen Russian assets, and have cut them off from technology sectors. Switzerland has announced they will not allow their country to be used to evade sanctions. Update 7, Russia has seized the Chernobyl power plant. Update 8, China states it understands the security concerns of the Kremlin, and not much more where that is concerned quite yet. Second, the Nazi Party is no longer an army. Who would believe that excuse? I mean, the Nazi Party. So when you say that there's Nazis, you're saying that there's an ideology. You're saying there's an ideology. The people there are aligned with Nazi ideology. That's what that is. As of 15 minutes ago, apparently Russia's forces have entered the Oblon district in Kyiv, where the Ukrainian military is currently fighting them. Ukraine's defense minister asked residents to not leave their houses and prepare Molotov cocktails. The district is approximately 10 kilometers from Kyiv. So, I mean, by the time this episode pops out, there's already going to be shit. Live cam feed shows the ball haven't showed armor crossing the river. Now, this is as of 15 minutes ago from the Kyiv Independent. Ukrainian updates as of 26 minutes ago says throughout the conflict in Ukraine seen today, there is one Ukrainian MiG-29 fighter jet that is soaring through the skies of Kyiv. This single fighter jet has already earned itself an alias, the Ghost of Kyiv, and has already downed 6 Russian aircraft. Should also be noted with everything that is going on right now, what part of the Russian strategy is where all this shit is concerned. And I hate to word it this way, but I made a guess yesterday during day 2 of the subathon that we would see Fox News more worried with dunking on Democrats than with supporting the United States attempts at dealing with Russia. That's what I expected, and lo and behold, here we are. But this is actually what you would expect. Here we have the Intelligence and Security Committee of Parliament on Russia from a couple years ago. This was submitted to UK Parliament as an intelligence document. There's a lot of stuff in that's been redacted. I'd highly recommend reading it if you haven't already. But it goes over a lot of the Russian strategy in this. Not just military strategy, but it's this section right here that I think everybody should take a time to read if you have not already. It notes that one of the things Russia has been doing is spreading disinformation, by which the document notes is promotion of intentionally false and distorting and distracting narratives, and running influence campaigns. These are things that are being that Russia has been doing for years, since about 2014. And it notes here that some of the stuff that it's doing, one of the things that Russia is doing and has been doing for a while is sowing division in other countries on wedge issues, highly divisive subjects which happen to be things that a country's population would care about. They are often, but not always, socially liberal and socially conservative, camp-oriented, so they can prey on people's tribalism. One of these web issues, some of these issues involve abortion and gun control in the United States, and then Brexit in the UK. Think of all of the political conversations that have been happening lately in the last couple years. Some of the most hot-button issues that everybody talks about in politics are issues that are being pushed to be talked about by Russian intelligence. This doesn't mean that they are not important issues. Abortion and gun control are conversations that have been happening in the United States, not without reason. But those seeds of division are very easy ones to prey on that create an increasingly polarized America. And an increasingly polarized America is one that can be militarily compromised. That has been part of their strategy for a very long time. And again, I don't say this randomly. I say this with actual reports that detail these things exactly. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do my due diligence when I say and when I do things. Because if I don't, then I'm functionally no better than someone like Tucker Carlson, just speaking out of his ass. It should be noted that one of the things that has happened recently is Biden has said that he is going to be tightening a stranglehold economically on Russia, and he will be protecting NATO allies. Masquerade, if wedge issues are the problem, why don't you learn how to interact with the other tribe, not just what convinces you? Yeah, that's what everybody should be doing. I don't know why that's even brought in. Wedge issues become a problem to talk about when the two sides don't know how to talk to each other, and that's literally been part of the stratagem. So I don't know why the fuck that's even being brought up. We also have to point out what Biden has been saying where this is all concerned. He has put up increased sanctions on Russia. He's trying to economically strangle Russia, but it is noted that he is not wanting to send in military on-the-ground troops into Ukraine. And the reason for this bothers me. I've talked about this on this stream, but this is the first time I'm going to be bringing up for a video that's coming up. The reason that he is not supplying troops to Ukraine and just supplying financial assistance is because Ukraine's not part of NATO. But Ukraine hasn't been able to become part of NATO, despite, from what I understand, the country's large wanting to be part of that, military group. Reason being, Russia has been doing everything in its power to force that to be the case. Hell, a lot of the reports in Ukraine of problems in their political system, corruption in their politics, a lot of it ends up being traced back. I think it was 400 Russian plants were found during that when they were sweeping for a lot of that shit. Almost as if all of this, every single ounce of it, is something that Russia has been trying to do from the get-go. Putting people in positions where these conversations that are had end up seeming to have merit because they've put the merit there. And I know it sounds conspiracy theory-like, but we are dealing with a country with a history of espionage. It should be noted as well, there's going to be a lot of very, very awkward mask-off conversations that happen during this time. So keep an eye out. Keep an eye out when you see conservative pundits go full mask off and supporting Russia. Keep an eye out when you see people selling shirts that say, I would rather be a Russian than a Democrat. Keep an eye out when you see these tribally divisive things. And I have to say again, as scatterbrained as it is, I am not a huge fan of Biden's response here. I think that economically strangling is a good idea, but if the main reason that he is not sending troops into Ukraine is not the fact that Putin literally said that he would hit the big red button, but that Ukraine is not part of NATO, understand it's like telling somebody who's being bullied, you can't help them until they put their pants on. But the bully is currently holding their fucking pants. It's not their fault they don't have their pants on. You have to address the bully first to take care of the pants. What's going to happen if we get a repeat of Crimea, Ukraine gets absorbed back into Russia in their desperate attempts to gain the relevance of the USSR once more, to cling to those glory days? What do you think is going to happen when they pull that in? Is the conversation going to be, well, they should have joined NATO? As much of a politically naive choice, or as much as a politically naive conversation as that would be, to not understand why they had not been able to join, despite wanting to. We have a country invading another country that has been independent and sovereign for the last 30 years. And there is no guarantee that the countries on that border or that also border Russia would not be susceptible to further incursions from Russia. That also doesn't help the discourse that one tribe is defending its basic human rights, like access to health care and bathrooms for trans people and birth control. The other tribe is calling for those rights to be removed. Yeah, I understand that, Chaotic Brook. It is still important to understand how to convince that side. How to convince that side that they've been duped. Also, Masqueration, what are you saying here? What videos you made you consider likely to have experiences that they do convince conservatives of anything it means? Is there evidence that this channel, which currently brings light to negative influence of wedge issues, is good at combating them? Masqueration, what the fuck are you even saying? More information that we do need to talk about where this is concerned. We've got more of the Ghost of Kyiv stuff going around, and even if it ends up just being propaganda, that is something sometimes that a country needs to hold itself together with all this stuff that's been happening. But speaking of Reddit, I believe, is this still turned off? Oh, yeah, no. r/Russia is just gone. r/Russia is just gone. It just doesn't exist. People saying, like, Carmine Sabia here on Twitter, saying Obama was president and Russia took Crimea. Trump was president and Russia didn't do anything. Biden was president and Russia's bombing Ukraine. Dimwit's on Twitter. Thank God Trump is not president. As if Trump was the thing stopping Russia from doing that. My God, I mentioned politically naive posts. Lincoln was president and the South seceded. Yep. Yeah, and Trump literally tried to get the United States out of NATO, true. And this, I don't see how that would have been a good thing here. This would have literally just put us on the other side of this conflict. That's all it would have done. So apparently we have... This is apparently evidence of some Russian soldiers literally taking off their armaments, saying this is Putin's war, not Russia's. If somebody speaks the language, that would be incredibly helpful, but I don't. So, I mean, take anything that I'm grabbing with a grain of salt. There's just a huge influx of information right now that has to be considered. We've got terribly sad things like a Ukrainian father who is saying goodbye to his daughter because he's staying behind to fight the Russian military. Like, this is the reality of these kinds of conflicts. And when you're saying stuff like this, it should be good to note the whole reason this is happening, from what the document we were reading earlier and from what I can tell, is just that Putin wants Ukrainian soil back in the folds of Russia. That's it. The most childish, limp-dicked reason possible. This used to be part of my country, now it's not. We're taking it back right now. Despite the fact that they'd been independent for 30 fucking years. We've got vehicles. We've got Russian armored vehicles that will literally just run over civilian vehicles. Absolutely zero fucking care for the civilians. None. And then, of course, President of Ukraine, Zelensky, is putting on military uniforms, either for propaganda or for not, to go deal with the shit himself. It could literally be just for the cameras. I don't know. But that's just the reality of how things are going. That is just the reality of how things are going. We've got more stuff about the Ghost of Kyiv, which, again, so they've got money for wars but can't feed their poor. I don't know what more I can say in this situation right now, outside of that's just kind of where we're at. It could be that at the same time he's probably aware that should Ukraine fall, Putin would likely have him executed. Well, yeah. Like he wouldn't be just accepting him into the folds. He would be seen as a traitor to the country that is now been just absorbed. And apparently there's videos of people talking to Russian citizens and seeing how they feel about the war, and you can find some people saying that this is just Putin's war, but from what everybody was saying yesterday, a shit ton of people who have tried to protest what's going on are just getting arrested. Anti-war protesters just getting Ezreal Hypo, thank you for resubscribing with Prime. But literally just getting arrested.
How much resistance is there to President Putin?
Yeah, Aaron, I'm literally going to step out of the way of the camera right now because you can see 3 people here just being arrested. There isn't so much of a central protest here. These are some ladies here that are in this central area of Moscow. While we've been here for the past 45 minutes, there's another person being dragged out of the subway here by his face, being dragged by the police, being arrested, thrust up against the vehicle, being frisked. We've seen dozens of people being arrested here over the last 45 minutes. Now, what the police have been explaining here is that there is no authorized anti-war protest allowed here. We've seen people, when they've been arrested, the police search their bags and they take out of their bags signs that say, "Stop the war." Then they're loaded into the police vans. We've seen that happen time after time after time over the last 45 minutes here. We know across the country, in dozens of cities, there have been protests similar to this. The government says they're not authorized protests. They've warned people not to attend them. They say that people can get arrested, that there will be legal repercussions, and the government even says, you know, if you get a criminal record for criminal activity at one of these events, then that can affect you for the rest of your life. And I'll just spin around this way. Here's another man just being taken away and arrested here. This is happening literally by the minute, and I'm looking at another 1-2 people coming up behind Liliana, our camerawoman. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At least 6 other people.
And it's
here,
just,
while we've been talking to you in the past couple of minutes.
this is just the reality of what's going on right now. So it should be noted, this is not a thing where you could just say, aha, there's no good Russians because the country is filled with X, Y, or Z. Don't let yourself fall into fucking xenophobia. There's people who are trying their best within the borders as well, and taking the bat for it. There will be more. We'll talk about more of this as we can. As always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.